Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today I'm not sure what I'm up to, so I think this is where we're up to. Let's jump into it. Hey guys, okay, so things changed a little bit. I might have got a little bit out of hand, but let's show you inside and show you what the interior looks like now, because I went a little crazy. So I stripped the whole thing. So I'll explain myself in a second, but yeah, I took everything out of here. I found a little bit of surface rust over there and a little bit at the back, but that's no worries. I kind of just got all the interior sitting there, or as much of it as I can in the back there. And yeah, and I have this here. This is a couple of cars worth of wiring. So yeah, it's a little update of me going a little bit crazy, but I think it's going to be worth it. So what I have done is I have pulled all the wiring out from the engine, the brakes, the headlights, all that kind of stuff, and I need to swap it over to a Honda Accord wiring. So my plan is, after doing a bit more research and a few other bits and pieces, that it just wasn't going to work. I was going to throw codes, nothing was going to work, and things were just going to be a little bit crazy. So first thing I did was go back to electronic, so drive-by-wire throttle body, which is the Honda Accord stuff. I then traced everything back, and it's just going to be the easiest way. So I pulled all the wiring out of this, and then now I took Truckosaurus for a drive, and I picked up this photo, picked up that. And so that is going to give me a heap of parts, but I also got gypped a little bit. So the guy said he pulled the wiring harness out of the engine bay. He actually pulled the wiring harness out of the whole front of the car. So he pulled the whole thing apart, which I didn't realize. And I was already down there, driven 2.5 hours. It was pretty cheap. I paid 300 bucks for it. And for the rest of the parts that I can pull out of the car, I was pretty happy with that. A little bit annoyed, but it is what it is. I since then have pulled this car apart. Here we go, guys. The Accord that I'm going to pull some shit off. There's another one around the corner too, so. But I'm not going to show you because it's going to take me a little while, but I'm going to get in here and pull all this stuff apart, pull this loom out. I pulled the whole dash wiring loom out. It's from an auto, and so I'm pretty sure I should be able to make this work and get it to hopefully do what I want it to do. I need to trick it into using the brake as the start switch, as like brake as in then it's in neutral, so it'll start, and disengage the electronics for the gearbox. But I hopefully should be able to do that with what I've got. But yeah, it's a mess. I then have got all the wiring with accessories and dash and bits and pieces, and I set it out there, wired it. It's a bit wet now, but that's why it's inside. But wired it all, set it all out so that I could see what I had to do, what I could connect up and what I could make sense of. And so now we're gonna go out to that black car that I picked up, and I'm gonna pull the whole interior out of that, because it has the rest of the body loom that I want to keep. It has from just near the driver's feet all the way back. I'm thinking I might be able to use the seats for here, the seat belts. That way, if I use the seat belts and the seats, that the airbag should work and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that's what I'm going to do. So this car will hopefully run as a Honda Accord Euro 2.4, and then later on, when I want to do other things to it, I can just base it off the Accord stuff, and then hopefully I don't have looms being chopped up and spliced into and everything else. I can hopefully just use all Accord stuff. That's the plan anyway. Though I've also thought maybe I could use the Accord dash. I don't mind this dash, but then if I use the Accord dash, I could get rid of all the junk where the shifter and everything was in this. But we're gonna see. So time lapse now of me pulling the whole interior out of the other car, or much of it, until it gets boring, and then I'll cut it because you don't need to see everything. But I need to pull all the wiring loom and all that kind of stuff out of that car and start pulling it apart. So let's go. One thing I also didn't say is, now that all the dash is out of the way, all over here we can get into the pedals, and so now I should be able to just adjust all this stuff. And then also, actually, sorry for all the junk, but also what we're going to do is pull the brake system out of the Accord. I'm going to take all the suspension out of it as well. That I probably won't have to show on video, but you'll see all the parts for it. And my thought is I need to take the ABS system out of it so I can put it in this, which will run all the right wiring and stuff like that. I can use all the brake lines out of here, but at least if I get the right module and everything else, it should all just clip together. But also I want to grab the suspension and bits and pieces out of the wheels. I think I might chuck the wheels on here because they look a little bit nicer. And yeah, it's going to be a bit of a crazy adventure, this one. So it's getting crazier by the minute. Engine's in. We did have wiring in there. Now there's no wiring in there. But yeah, let's jump back in. Let's jump into me ripping this car apart.
Okay, here we go, guys. Oh god, this thing smells bad. Like unwashed teenager and I don't know. The horrible thing. But I should be able to clean the seats up. I'm saying all this horrible stuff and then I'm going to use the seats maybe, but I should be able to clean them up. Oh god, it smells bad. Had the doors open for days and don't make any difference. But yeah, I have the dash, the cluster, but yeah, the rest of the stuff is being taken out. Like the rest of the dash is all piled in here somewhere, but I'm gonna get in here, pull out all the shit that I want, put all the other shit that I don't want in here, and then sell everything else off. If it didn't have all the wiring loom chopped out of it, it probably would have been a good car to like rescue, but this is a bucket, so let's get into pulling it apart. Oh, and I also forgot to show you, got some awesome red accents, some doof doof, and also this horribleness. If anyone wants it, be on eBay. $337.29 plus postage. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm glad I'm wearing gloves. This is, oh, so bad. Then I took a small intermission of about 2 weeks and I have done lots of wiring. So trying to get this to work with the rest of the wiring I'm trying to use. The wiring I'm trying to use is a Honda Accord wiring, and yeah, it's a little bit of chopping and changing and moving things around. So yeah, I think I'm almost there. There's a few bits I need. I need to get, what I didn't realize for the Honda Accord is that it runs another sensor. It runs, what is it called? A throttle control module up under the dash, which when pulling everything else apart, as well as the scrap car that I got, it didn't have it in there anyway. But I didn't realize it had one, and then when I pulled the looms out of the junkyard cars that I went to, I didn't think it was anything. I just thought it was more wiring for the seat, because it has like electric seats and all that kind of stuff, and a very similar clip or connection, so I didn't bother taking it. But I realized I need one of those, so I'm gonna have to go to the junkyard again. But yeah, we're looking pretty good. So in the background is my motorbike. I'm taking a little bit of pause on that because I'm waiting on some parts to jump into this. So all the wiring up the front here is gone, all the lights and everything I've taken out. I've taken all the wiring out. I'll throw some photos up and bits and pieces of what I've been doing. But the plan is, because this car is an HID, I didn't want to retrofit the lights to HID. Maybe I will in the future, but at the moment I just wanted to get everything running on the lights that I had. And so therefore I had to pull the wiring loom out of a Honda Accord and pull the light, had to pull all the light wiring out of it to then make my own loom. And so, give me 2 seconds and this floor will be covered in wiring. Okay, so we have all that kind of stuff. So let's walk you through it. It's a bit of a nightmare. Well, not a nightmare, but it has been for me, not for you. So this is everything, I'm pretty sure, to make this run that engine. I'm probably going about this the long way, and as I've said it before, I was thinking maybe I'll have to run an aftermarket ECU, and my thought is this way I probably can. So this way, instead of say losing my HVAC or my aircon, is by doing this whole route, and then that way I can say change to a K-Pro, change to a Honda, or anything like that. So let's walk you through the chaos that is now in my shed. So it's been ruining my life for a little while. So here we have headlight with, here we have the fuse box with all of the headlight wiring and fans and everything else. That starts over there, runs around the front, all the headlights, fans in here, headlights, blinkers up the side, and then runs into the cabin. So that's all that. I haven't laid it out like I have laid everything else out because, as you can tell, it's taking up a little bit of room. And this one is the engine wiring harness. So it runs around, goes in, runs into the ECU, which I've plugged in just to make it easier. This one. So this one does run around, in these, it runs around the front. On the Accord, it runs around the back. So I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to run it, but I've got it so that way we can run all the brakes. So this one's all the brake wiring, runs into that fuse box as well, runs over here, does the ABS and everything else, which is why I have this here. So this ABS module is different to this one. So physically it looks around the same size, but this one has a few less pins in it, and my thought is if I'm going to run it, I might as well go all out and run exactly what it's meant to have in it, and that way if I have any issues I can chase it back and I can just chase it Accord parts and make it easy. So I'm not going to use the booster and everything else because the booster's has the master cylinder attached, whereas in this one the master cylinder sits just there and it's unattached because the way the rest of the body comes over the top of the engine. So that one's all there, that runs up into the cabin, plugs into that grey box there along with all these other wires, and then everything else. So this is all dash wiring, airbags, dash, stereo, etc, etc. And then down we come across here, this is more dash stuff, and then as it runs out the back we have O2 sensors, which is I think the part where I'm missing some wiring, which is why I have to go back to the junkyard, but that's another story. And then the rest, fuel pump wiring, everything else, more airbags under the seats, etc, etc. And then this runs down to the back, and then that is the rest of the wiring that sits in the tail lights, the rear speakers, all that kind of stuff. So what I did is I grabbed everything, I chucked it in the floor of my house and just laid it all out, plugged everything in, got everything I think kind of where I wanted it. So I got the steering column, as you can see, got the steering column and the blinkers and wipers and just as much of the little click-on bits that I could do to work out what was going on. I had to wire in, I think, so these pink wires here, I had to wire in the clutch switch. So I think I've wired it right. I could be wrong, but I've wired it off the same switch which is like the parking switch for the auto transmission. So when you'd put it in park, it would then let you start the engine. Same as the thing, you put the clutch down, it lets you start the engine. It's just the switch. I think. I could be wrong. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I'm going with. And today, my plan is to get most of this wiring in here. It's not going to have all the dash, it's not going to have everything connected, but it's going to have the wire in situ. I'm going to attach as much of the stuff as I can so I can sit there, and then hopefully I can work out if I'm missing things and what wiring I need, and that way when I go to the junkyard, hopefully the one last time, I can get everything I want. So the part that I am missing clicks onto here, runs up and sits in the dash, and it's a throttle control module, which I didn't know because on the Accord they're a little bit different. Sorry if this is a little bit technical kind of stuff, but I'm just going over it. So if anyone else wants to do this, they know what to do, or the way I did it anyway. So what was I talking about? Oh, the throttle. So in these are the two cables that originally run in the Odyssey throttle. So these have a manual throttle body, which is the one I showed you early on, which is what I was trying to keep, which I'm going to try and revert back to later on, but for now I've just gone everything Accord Euro, so that way it just all plugs in. So yeah, it comes across, two things go over here, and then there over this side there is what do you call it, cruise control module, and then it all runs it. On the Accord wiring, which is this box here, on the Accords, on this side of the engine bay, parked over here somewhere, they have that piece, which when you apply the throttle, it works out how much throttle you're putting in, it tells the computer does it, there's a little bit of delay. So the big thing with early Honda Accords, as they've talked about, is that delay is quite frustrating, and that is what you can change with like a throttle controller. All it does is it makes your sensitivity more. So instead of giving it this much throttle, when you put it onto 100%, like this much throttle gives you the same amount. So that's another story, but yeah, I'm going to try and keep everything Honda Accord, and then that way if I have any issues or I'm trying to trace something, I can just look it back at a Honda Accord wiring loom and we should be all good. So to start up, after all this talking, I'm going to chuck the engine wiring harness in. It also already has this engine wiring harness, which is the charge and starter motor wiring harness. It goes up into that fuse box as well, that one there. Okay, sorry, a lot of talking, let's jump into it. I'm going to wire up the engine bay. Let's go. Okay, so shorter time lapse than I thought, but this is just taking so long. I didn't want to film everything because it's just a nightmare, because I didn't label anything, because I'm an idiot. But we're getting there. As you can tell, I'm a bit tired. It's another day, but we're getting there. So engine bay 99% wired until I just took this out. These wires, which on the Accord normally start up there, and they run around and then plug in. On the Odyssey, they connect in with the headlight wiring loom. They run from there all the way around the front, into the brakes and bits and pieces, and then into the cab. So what I have done is used the Accord stuff, pulled it through the firewall, run it round, but it's kind of just sitting in the way all at the back. So my plan is just up in this, I'm going to drill a hole, pull the wires through, run along the back there, and then down in. Might look a little bit nicer and cleaner. What I did before that, you can't really see because it's really tucked down in there, but I put the brake booster, master cylinder on, and lines, and then realized that the reservoir doesn't sit in there, so I have to come up with something on how to do that. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do yet, but that'll be for another episode anyway. I then chucked power steering hose because this power steering pump is a little different. On the top here, it's got 2 bolts. On my other one, it just had 1, I think. Oh, sorry. So So this is the old one. It plugs in, it's got two things. On this one, it's got like a little Y, so it's a little bit different power steering pump. So I had to change that, which I picked up from the wrecker while I was out there. I put ABS module in with all the lines, plugged them all up. It's still sitting there, I have to make the bracket for it, but that I'll whip up before next episode. Lights and everything else looking pretty good. Oh, I also did chuck the aircon line at the back. I have to massage that, but I'll show you that again. Okay guys, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to cut this episode now. I've waffled on way too much this episode about everything that I'm doing. I've just finished up the engine bay, or as much as I just showed you, and I realized that this episode is just way too long already. So I'm going to cut it here. I've got some more stuff to do with the interior, but that'll be for next fortnight. I'm sorry this one's taken a little while. I've just had wiring kicking my butt. I'll go on over it a bit more, but I should have just bought a whole donor car instead of pulling parts from everything, but that's another story. I'll talk to you about that next fortnight. And yeah, that's going to be it. I really appreciate everyone who's reached out and asked questions about the car and what I'm doing and how to do it, because there's a few people who are looking to do the same thing. So hopefully all the waffling is helping those people, and hopefully everybody else is enjoying it along the way. I really appreciate all the support, guys. So all the messages and subscribes and everything, it means the world to me. I enjoy doing this, and hopefully you guys enjoy the content that I put out. Let's do this again next fortnight. Hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. See ya.